Can Trump strike a deal with one of America's and get North Korea to give up their nuclear weapons? All this while he engages in a war of words with our closest allies, accusing Canada of trying to sabotage the summit. We're live in Singapore with all the latest developments. Our team covering it all right now on GMA.
Also this morning, flash flood alert. Cars trapped underwater on the highway overnight as Hurricane Bud turns in the Pacific, expected to turn into a major Category 3 storm just hours from now. Deadly alligator attack. The new warning after a woman is killed walking her dogs. More gator sightings reported across the South. What may be behind it?
And the shocking moment at the Tonys, why Robert De Niro was censored overnight. And the big winners taking home awards from Harry Potter to Angels in America. Plus, the powerful performance from the students of Parkland honoring their hero teacher.
Live from Times Square in Singapore, this is a special edition of Good Morning America.
And we do say good morning, America. Great to have all of you with us on this Monday morning. We are counting down to that historic summit, the first meeting of a sitting American president and the leader of North Korea.
And George is live in Singapore to lead our coverage of this extraordinary event.
Extraordinary is the word for it, Michael. No meeting like this, as Robin said, has ever happened before. And the excitement here is matched by tension and anxiety. No one here knows how this is going to go. Teams have been meeting behind closed doors for most of the day after President Trump had a public meeting with the Prime Minister of Singapore this morning. And tonight, right at 9 p.m. Eastern, President Trump wanted it to hit in prime time. The two leaders will shake hands before a private conversation with enormous stakes. If the summit is a success, the threat of nuclear war will recede. North Korea could become a new kind of country. If it fails, the risks of war with thousands of U.S. troops on the front lines could rise dramatically. Overnight, just hours away from the historic summit, President Trump met with the Prime Minister of Singapore.
We've got a very interesting meeting in particular tomorrow, and I think things can work out very nicely.
He arrived in Singapore on Sunday sounding confident.
How are you feeling about the summit?
A few hours earlier, Kim Jong-un touched down. It's only the third time the dictator has traveled outside North Korea since taking power. The two will meet tonight at this hotel on Singapore's Sentosa Island. First, an intimate face-to-face. Just Trump, Kim, and their translators. Then they'll call in their diplomatic teams. Before departing the G7 summit for Singapore, the president signaled he has high hopes here.
I feel that Kim Jong-un wants to do something great for his people, and he has that opportunity, and he won't have that opportunity again.
And he says he'll know right away if Kim is someone he can work with.
I think within the first minute, I'll know.
How?
Just my touch, my feel, that's what I do. I think I'll know pretty quickly whether or not, in my opinion, something positive will happen. And if I think it won't happen, I'm not going to waste my time. I don't want to waste his time.
But this momentous turnaround comes after years of provocations. Almost 70 years in a state of war. Since taking power in 2011, Kim has tested more missiles than his father and grandfather combined, including one that could reach as far as New York or Washington. And North Korea's threat to target the U.S. last year drew a fierce warning from President Trump.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
Kim did not back down. North Korea announced a successful test of a powerful hydrogen bomb last September, and Kim called Trump a mentally deranged U.S. dotard. President Trump countered, Kim is short and fat, a sick puppy.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
But despite the rhetoric, just 3 months ago, the president agreed to meet with the North Korean dictator, the first time ever for a sitting president. And that sets the scene for what is happening right now. As I said, we are here with our whole team. I want to bring in our chief White House correspondent, John Carlin. John, you're across town with the White House delegation. We just heard from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and he made it very clear that they've been hammering out the details of how this is going to go with the North Koreans right up until the last minute.
He called this a mission of peace, George, and said he's optimistic, said that they're making progress more quickly than he anticipated. But it's quite clear that the best case scenario from the White House view here is that there will be a general commitment on denuclearization with the details to be worked out later. So, George, the clearest measure of whether or not this has been successful is if there is another meeting between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump put in place after this summit is over.
Also taking pains to show how much President Trump has prepared for this meeting.
No doubt. Talked about how the president's been preparing for this. Also talked about the extensive amount of experts that have been part of this process. It said dozens of PhDs, experts in nuclearization, who could look at the technical details of an agreement, if an agreement is reached, the verification process. This is not just Donald Trump winging it, although, George, this first meeting will be a one-on-one meeting, just Donald Trump, Kim Jong-un, and their translators.
Yeah, they're not going to bring in the full delegation until after that. And we're really seeing some extraordinary diplomacy right now, John, even as the president is reaching out to one of America's sworn enemies for almost 70 years. It's coming off this G7 summit where he's had such harsh criticism for our closest allies, that tweet storm about the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, backed up by the president's staff as well.
It's something I haven't heard a president, a White House talk about a leader the way that this White House has talked about Justin Trudeau since we were George Bush talking about Saddam Hussein. I mean, you had one of the president's top advisors actually suggest there is a special place in hell for the Canadian Prime Minister. They're trying to portray this as an effort by the president to show toughness coming into this meeting, that he won't be pushed around. But, George, I don't know if anybody could have anticipated we'd be in a situation where the White House, where the president is talking more harshly about the Canadian Prime Minister than about the dictator of North Korea.
No, it's really something, although Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said he's unconcerned, said the allies still united on North Korea. Okay, John, thanks very much. We'll come back to you later. I want to bring in our Chief Global Affairs anchor now, Martha Raddatz, also here with me right now. Let's talk a little bit about Kim Jong-un. He got here today because he accelerated the nuclear program. The big question right now, can he give it up? What does he need in return?
Well, he says he will talk denuclearization, but as you know, George, all the experts say he probably won't do it. But what he wants, what he needs right now is security. This is the farthest Kim Jong-un has ever been from home as leader. And while he may seem relaxed and at ease, the weight on his 34-year-old shoulders is tremendous. North Korean state media reporting that Kim is prepared to talk about denuclearization and peace, certainly seen as a good sign by the U.S., and that he's looking for security guarantees and economic help his nation so desperately needs. North Korean media also broadcasting images of Kim's journey, surrounded by that hand-picked squad of flawless bodyguards, raised from childhood to protect their leader. The Straits Times newspaper reporting one of his plane's cargo included luxury cars and food items. That handshake and sit-down set to take place at the five-star Capella Hotel, initially just President Trump and Chairman Kim and their translators.
The two leaders who are meeting tomorrow will be our master disruptors in many ways, where they go off script.
The meeting caps 2 years of those threats, insults, then a dramatic pivot as Kim showed surprising skill on the world stage, all driving to this historic moment.
The spigot has turned on for greater international engagement, economic, political, otherwise, that boost Kim's legitimacy. So in that way, Kim can rack up that sort of win.
As I found on the North-South Korean border this weekend, the mere fact that they're meeting instead of threatening fire and fury is also seen as a win by those who would be most affected.
And we are joined here now by Tom Bossert, our newest ABC News contributor, just left the Trump White House as a national security aide. And Tom, let me take this to you. It's been so clear that President Trump has been seized by this issue ever since that meeting with President Obama right after the election, just 2 days after the election, where President Obama said, this is your #1 job.
Yeah, it's true, George. The president was gripped by that because it was a very sobering entry into the presidency. But remember, he's been thinking about it through the election. He's probably been thinking about it through his entire life, and rightly, because the last 3 presidents have seen the evolution of this problem. One saw the evolution of the fuel cycle, the second saw the evolution of the missile technology, and what President Trump has now inherited is a world problem, not just a U.S. concern.
And it's so clear that President Trump sees this as his moment to be a man of history.
I think he does, but I also think it's been heaped upon him. So at this point, he really deserves a little credit for taking this on for the world, because it's no longer a U.S. and regional issue. At this point, if he doesn't solve it, his fear is there's no other way out.
You've been inside that White House. How do you manage the fact that this has been an issue that's built up with a lot of history over years and years of years, and the president's desire to go in there and be guided by his gut in many ways?
Yeah, you know, in a lot of ways, though, it fits into his thinking, because he can't tiptoe into it. He can't tiptoe through it. We've seen that process fail before, and so it really lands to his strengths. He has to do it quickly. He has to do it in a brash fashion, and he's looking for a strategic decision. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of understandable that he thinks he'll figure this out in the first few minutes.
Martha, you've spent a lot of time on the border. You spent a lot of time with the military in South Korea. Make no mistake about it. At the beginning of this administration, when Kim was accelerating his nuclear program, we got close to military action.
Oh, so close, George. And they were practicing and rehearsing and doing exercises in secret bunkers in Pacific Command near the border. They had to get this right. But the results of any kind of engagement were terrifying. There would be U.S. losses there with our troops in South Korea. Thousands of them. So they took this very seriously. They still take it very seriously.
Well, that's the point, because everyone's hoping for success tomorrow here in Singapore. The risks of failure, as they said right at the start, are so high.
So enormous. If this fails, I think you'll go right back to where we were before. I think one key point in this that we forget is that President Trump is faced with a nuclear-armed North Korea that can reach the United States, or is just about to get that
And
ability.
that is why we are here today.
Exactly.
Tom Bossert, Martha Raddatz, thanks very much. Let's go back to you, Robin.
Okay, George, and of course, as you know, the security at that historic summit extremely tight, reportedly costing Singapore about $15 million. Our foreign correspondent, James Longman, is outside Kim's hotel in Singapore, where the police are on high alert. Good morning to you, James.
Good morning, Robin. When the most powerful man in the world meets arguably the most dangerous, you can bet security will be tight, and that is exactly the case here. Take a look. We're outside the St. Regis Hotel, where Kim Jong-un is staying. We've already caught a glimpse of that rather odd security detail he has, who runs alongside his motorcade. And outside, you can see heavily armed police. They're checking vehicles here. Police with machine guns down the road, and that road there is totally blocked off. You can imagine for Kim Jong-un, who's used to very choreographed, controlled events back in North Korea, that this being so exposed is certainly a new thing. This hotel, the hotel where Donald Trump is staying, and Sentosa Island and the waters around it have all been designated special security zones. So that means airport-style security checks, bag searches, body searches. And Singapore was chosen, really, part of the reason was because it has a pretty massive security infrastructure anyway. They take a pretty hardcore view of law and order here. Protests are prohibited if you haven't got a permit. And on the island itself, they've banned any kind of protest. So for both Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump, and of course the Singaporean government, no one is taking any chances. Robin?
All right, James, thank you very much, and we'll have much more from George and our entire team live in Singapore all morning long. Michael?
All right, thank you, Robin. Now to those new details about the shocking death of celebrity chef and TV host Anthony Bourdain. Those closest to him are now speaking out, and ABC's Adrian Banker joins us now with the latest. Good morning, Adrian.
Good morning to you too, Michael. As stunning as his death still is, there appear to have been warning signs. Bourdain talked about depression on his travel shows. Now we're hearing from his family and those who saw him just hours before his suicide. This morning, we're learning more about the final days of famed TV host and chef Anthony Bourdain before he took his own life. Speaking just hours after hearing of her son's death, Bourdain's mother Gladys told the New York Times she had no idea her son was suicidal. He is absolutely the last person in the world I would have ever dreamed would do something like this. Adding, he had everything, success beyond his wildest dreams, money beyond his wildest dreams. His mother telling the Times his friend and frequent travel companion, Chef Eric Repair, told her Tony had been in a dark mood these past couple of days. Bourdain spoke of his struggles with depression in a 2016 episode of Parts Unknown.
I'd like to be happy. I should be happy. I have, incredible luck. I'd like to be able to, look out the window and say, hey, life is good.
And you don't?
No.
According to the Times, Bourdain was found unresponsive in his hotel room just after 9 a.m. Friday in France, where he was shooting an upcoming episode of his award-winning show. Staffers at a nearby restaurant say he appeared happy.
So everything was fine. Everything was working great.
But the next night, Bourdain skipped dinner. Friends grew worried when he missed breakfast the following morning. A waiter telling the Times his friend was waiting at breakfast and waiting and waiting. Moments later, a hotel employee entered his room, confirming the worst. As the world and those closest to him mourn his loss, girlfriend Asia Argento, whom Bourdain proudly supported during the Me Too movement, is seen for the first time since his passing on Saturday in Rome, leaving her house. Argento posting this heartfelt message online. He was my love, my rock, my protector. I am beyond devastated. And French investigators say they will be releasing his body to his family for burial. They're still awaiting toxicology results.
Still so shocking.
It is sad. I mean, this is a man who really, literally pulled no punches, and it's still a sucker punch to all his fans.
Certainly is. All right, Adrienne, thank you so much. We move on now to that powerful moment at the Tony Awards last night, a special honor for that brave drama teacher who kept dozens of students safe in an office during the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Melody Hersfeld receiving the Excellence in Theater Education Award. And then former Glee star Matthew Morrison introduced drama students from the school to sing Seasons of Love from Rent. Wow. Not a dry eye in the house. And the performance, as you might imagine, got a standing ovation. The award also gives the school $10,000 for its theater program. What a powerful, powerful moment and an important lesson we should all learn about love.
Yes. That's it, Adrienne. Let's go to Rob now. Flash flooding hitting Philadelphia, New Jersey overnight?
That's right, Robin. It's been a rough overnight period, not just for parts of Pennsylvania, but New Jersey, Philadelphia area. This is Cherry Hill, New Jersey, 3 to 5 inches of widespread rainfall. The Schuylkill Expressway north of Philadelphia seeing some dramatic rainfall there, and a difficult commute this morning with rain now drifting down towards the south over the next couple of days. So North Carolina, you'll get into it. Indianapolis and south of there, you had a rough weekend as well with some rough weather. You'll see some more rain. And we're looking at this, a strengthening hurricane. This is Bud. We'll talk more about its track in the next half hour. For now, though, your Select Cities brought to you by CarMax.
At CarMax, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy one from us. Because maybe you're already buying a car somewhere else, or maybe you want to shop around, or maybe you don't want to drive a car at all anymore. Like maybe you want to ride a camel into the desert and take a deep, hard look within. Just figure some stuff out for a while. That's cool. Whatever your plans for buying a car, CarMax is the place to sell your car. Okay, let's do this, Tina. Here we go. I believe in you, Tina. Come on now. We could just hang.
A wet start to the work week, and temperatures are going to stay in the 60s all day long. Some wet roads this morning, but a bigger chance between 10 a.m. and 1 o'clock this afternoon. And then for the big victory parade, as we celebrate our caps, it's going to be probably the best day out of the work week. Temperatures highs mid-70s, low humidity. That parade kicks off at 11 a.m., 67 degrees the temperature. And then another chance of rain coming not until the end of the work week. As far as Father's Day, nice and sunny.
Coming up as we count down to the historic summit, Bob Woodruff is going to take you inside North Korea, known as the Hermit Kingdom. a place few Americans have seen.
And that deadly alligator attack, a woman killed while walking her dog, and this one recently spotted scaling a backyard fence. Why right now is especially dangerous for a gator.
If you're moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's symptoms,